I'm not lying.
If there
I'm telling you a fact.
But if there ever is a problem, do you think that you could go tell the American public? Do you think in your role that you're in a position to do that?
Of course, if necessary, but there's no need for that. There is a political argument that is being made that is not based on substance.
Oh, so reassuring. I mean, it's now clear that the only job Kamala Harris has achieved as vice president was covering up Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Kamala Harris has been lying at the expense of the American people and is now expected to replace Joe Biden as the presidential nominee. And it looks like Joe is clearly ready for it.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president.
Clean up on aisle 5, but don't forget, Joe Biden never chose Kamala as his running mate because of her skills, because of her experience. He chose her solely for the color of her skin and her gender, just to please the base. This administration has done nothing but lie to us for nearly 4 years, and as I've said before, this great nation deserves so much better. Joining me now to discuss, Jessica Milan Patterson. She's the chairwoman of the California Republican Party. Jessica, thanks for being with us tonight. You know, Biden obviously doubling down in Wisconsin that he is staying in the race. But insiders, a lot of these anonymous sources leaking to the press right now, their money is on Kamala. What kind of chance do you think she would have up against President Trump?
Well, thanks so much for having me. Isn't it a sad state of affairs for the Democrat Party when the leader and the nominee can't string a sentence together, and then their bench is so dismal as Kamala Harris being the lead in the run for who will replace Biden?
Yeah, and listen to this. This is how we have so many clips. I mean, we only have an hour for this show tonight, but listen to how she responded to the Robert Hur report.
The way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated.
Do you think she's going to regret those words?
I think absolutely. This was gaslighting at its best. And what's so interesting to me is last Thursday night, we saw the 90-minute debate, and Democrats are out there trying to convince us that we saw something differently. But the fact of the matter is we've been seeing this over the last 3.5 years, and they have been involved in a massive cover-up, along with the mainstream media, about what our president's capabilities really are.
Yeah, and you know, Kamala Harris, she was the Attorney General of California back in 2018 when she was running for president. Tulsi Gabbard called her out during a debate. I want you to listen to this and I'll get your reaction.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place.
And, you know, let's not forget her polls were at a 6% favorability before she dropped out. Obviously, not the best option when you look at potential Kamala Harris as a candidate.
No, and right here in California, we are now trying to fix all of the problems that were created by people like Kamala Harris with Prop 47, Prop 57, AB 109. They essentially decriminalized all crime in California. Smash and grabs have become very regular. Meanwhile, the nation has seen a 13% decrease in violent crimes. In that same time, California is 31% above the national average when it comes to violent crime and up 13% just since 2019. People like Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, California Democrats have been not just soft on crime, but they have been pro-criminal. And Californians are facing the very real repercussions of this, so much so that we have to have a reform ballot on our reform initiative on our ballot this November to fix some of these problems that they created.
And Jessica, I think a lot of Americans have also been concerned, even prior to Kamala's name coming up, because it was so laughable right after the debate. But Gavin Newsom, you saw him lurking around the spin room. We've seen him lurking outside the Oval Office over the years, that he might try to get into the race if Biden were to step aside. What do you think the odds are of that? And do you think that, you know, they'll yank Biden out right now if he does step aside and then have Kamala take over as president?
Well, I don't think it was so much lurking as it has been a shadow presidential campaign for a very long time. I've been talking about this since June of last year, and he has had his eyes on the presidency. And he is just waiting for the opportunity. That's why we see him in Michigan. We will see him in New Hampshire. He is not only trying to be in all of the places where it would make sense for the vice president to be as campaigning on the ticket, but he wants to make sure that his name is a part of the conversation. He has had his eyes on the presidency for a very long time. But you need look no further than his record to know exactly why this would be an absolute disaster for our country. The highest gas prices in the nation, a housing crisis, education. He has failed us on every level.
Yeah, I think Americans want to be, at least most Americans would like to be more like Florida and less like California has been under Democrat leadership. Hopefully better days ahead. Jessica Patterson, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Jen.